So today we'll be taking a look at a scenario where Russia tried to reform the USSR in 2025. Now the USSR is a country that collapsed back in 1991 after the Cold War, and it left behind a number of 15 countries, the biggest of them and the actual successor to the nation being Russia, and they will in this scenario go in and try to reform the entire thing. So let's waste no time and get straight in the video. Russia throughout this video will be colored in red because they are the main aggressor and the one who will try to reform the USSR. Also, red is a super fitting color for that certain nation. And their first target will be Ukraine, which they are already at war with, so allow me to make their front lines. These are currently the front lines in Russia and Ukraine, and now Russia will be way more nationalistic and they will go straight into the northern parts, advancing quickly into Kiev. Also, now they will make some excursions from Belarus, which in this timeline will go way better than the first time, and they will quickly approach Kiev and they will take the entire Ukrainian border. Also, they will start to take more land in the Donbass region, and they are also starting to cut Ukraine from the sea, which they eventually do, meeting up with Romania and Moldova, which understandably so makes them angry, but really they can't do anything. Also, Romania is a member of NATO, so that doesn't really bother them. So now Russia will take a lot more land and they will start to enclosure Ukraine. Also, they will go around the Transnistrian regions, kinda causing instability in Moldova, but they will mostly ask for help from Romania. But as for Ukraine, they are completely lost and they see an entire encirclement in their capital, in Kiev. They lose a lot of land. Eventually they lose Kiev, and from here all this part is wiped out. As well as these parts, they take Lviv, which is I think the second or third biggest Ukrainian city behind Kiev and Kharkiv, and with this Ukraine falls. So let's see what Russia does. So as you can see in this peace treaty, Russia fully annexed Ukraine after all their efforts, and now they will go straight to their next target, which is Moldova, and they've been asking for help from Romania, but you know, Romania against Russia wouldn't really be able to win, and Russia knows this, so they will go in and decide to invade Moldova, and this war will be very short because Moldova doesn't really stand much of a chance, and in the peace treaty they will get fully annexed. So in this peace treaty Moldova got fully annexed and they probably got overrun in like a week or something. They fell very shortly. And now Russia will move their forces over to the Caucasian region, where they will declare war on Georgia, but also Azerbaijan will intervene. And because of this we will then see Armenia joining on Russia's side. So let's see how this war plays out. Now Russia already has Abkhazia and South Ossetia, so because of that Georgia will quickly fold. Armenia will take the Azerbaijani enclave, and pretty easily these countries will fall. So now let's see what this peace treaty will entail. In this peace treaty, Russia fully annexed the Caucasian countries with Armenia joining them, and Russia just declared war on Kazakhstan. Also, all these CSTO countries, and this is for sure interesting, so let's see how this war plays out. Immediately we see Russia advancing into the northern parts of Kazakhstan with a lot of Russian population in these regions, which is basically the justification that Russia used for this war, and they will move right across here, taking all this land. Also, they will start to advance throughout the little panhandle of Kazakhstan, fully pushing them out of Europe, because technically they are a European nation, but this part was a little bit better reinforced by Kazakhstan, so they will manage to push back in here into these lands. But oh well, Russia is strong, so this really didn't last long at all, and they will end up getting pushed once again. They lose their little piece right here in an encirclement, and now Kazakhstan is in a little bit of trouble. They will have success pushing Russia a little bit here, and start to kind of push in the primarily Russian regions. Also they meet up with their border right in here, but oh, guess what, Russia just went again and retook these areas, and now they are starting to push throughout Kazakhstan, also taking their capital. I think they will lose their little part in here, which already wasn't really meant to last that long. And now the sweep of Kazakhstan happens as they get targeted first and they end up surrendering. Also they will lose their little land in there, and then Kyrgyzstan will fall, quickly followed by Tajikistan, because they aren't necessarily strong and they even have problems between themselves. So this will be a very interesting peace treaty, to say the least. In this peace treaty we can see that Russia, or the new USSR as they are starting to be known as, they will fully annex Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan and Tajikistan, and they will waste no time. They will quickly assimilate their land and go for their next target, which is Uzbekistan. And I'm not gonna even change the color of my brush because this is super obvious what happens. Russia will go straight in and just basically walk in the nation and fully annex it. That's kind of what happens. So now let's see how this nation is integrated. Yeah, so Uzbekistan just got fully annexed by the USSR, and now the USSR wouldn't even like care at all, so they will just straight up give an ultimatum to Turkmenistan, which is either you join our nation or we will just invade you and kill all your people. And Uzbekistan is ruled by smart people, so they will join in the USSR. So as you can see, the new USSR just annexed Turkmenistan, and now it almost fully reunited the entire union, only missing the Baltics and Belarus. Belarus will fully fold in and join the USSR. Yeah, so as you can see, the USSR fully annexed Belarus, and now they have their final targets, which will be fairly easy ones, and they will be the Baltic states. So let's see how once again other nations will crumble to Russia. Immediately we'll see Russian forces go along the Lithuanian coast, taking a lot of their land. Also they will connect with Kaliningrad from their Belarusian mainlands, which explains why they annexed Belarus in the first place. And now they will quickly move across the border of Lithuania, taking their capital in Vilnius, and immediately Lithuania will be forced to fall over to the USSR. Now Riga will get targeted and it will fall, and all the soldiers stuck in here will be flowing over to Estonia in their little islands there, followed shortly by the rest of Latvia being targeted, and they will fall. And now Estonia is the last hope, but not a very good hope, as they are once again like targeted because they are the last one. They lose their capital Tallinn, and with this they also fall. So let's see the one last final peace treaty to reunite the USSR. As you can see, in this one last final peace treaty, the USSR completely reformed and fully reclaimed all of its land, from Siberia all the way to Kaliningrad in Europe. They fully reclaimed all of the 15 states and Soviet republics from the nation, and now it is back. But wait a second, we are not quite done yet. So the Soviet Union has a one last final target, that target being Finland, but now we'll see that the Soviet Union's aggressive expansions will come at a cost, and that cost is one of a massive coalition formed of Poland, Czechia, Slovakia, Hungary, Romania, Bulgaria, and Greece, and Albania. And now the Soviet Union looks at these countries and they are like, QIS. I mean, the Soviet Union will get Serbia and Montenegro to join though, but this won't help at all, as the other nations in the Balkans will join this war. And now the Soviet Union is about to get fully clapped. I'm sure it couldn't get any worse than this. I'm sure it couldn't get any worse. Okay, yeah, the US joined. And now the Soviet Union will say its last words, and it is bro. And this is all they have to say, because now let's get straight into the fighting, where the Soviet Union is about to get clapped. From the first start, Serbia and Montenegro will get completely obliterated, and now we will go into the Soviet Union, where we will see them passing away. Immediately we see Romanian forces go in and capture Bessarabia, and Hungarian with Slovak forces will advance into Carpathian Ruthenia, as well as Polish forces go into the parts of Belarus and Ukraine which they once ruled on, and they will also go in and capture Kaliningrad and go across the Baltic parts which have recently been annexed and not really quite that been well assimilated by Russia. Maybe the Soviet Union should have thought about reinforcing more the part with Finland, because now they lost St. Petersburg and their entire lake is captured, as Finland just walks across the Kola Peninsula. As you know, Russia doesn't have the best of winter armies, which is very interesting. I mean, it has a good winter army, but Finland has a better one, demonstrated by World War II, and Finland will take all of this very valuable land. And now we'll see Poland and Finland collaborating to fully kick Russia out of the Baltic Sea, and now we are starting to see the enclosement of Moscow. Romania will do exactly what it did in World War II and advance in Ukraine, taking all this land and go over into Crimea and take Sevastopol, which is a very valuable area, and they will jump here into the Russian Caucasian regions, getting close to Stalingrad, and Romania is about to get a rematch of last time. They now get close to the city, they encircle it, and after a little bit of fighting, Romania takes Stalingrad, now known as Volgograd, I think it's named, and they will now meet with the Caspian Sea, and Russia is clearly losing. Now we'll see all these nations quickly move across here into Ukraine and Belarus, taking all their land. They eventually recapture Kiev, which was taken at the beginning of this video. They now take Kursk and Kharkiv, two very big Ukrainian cities, and Russia is starting to lose, and it's pretty clear that Russia was never really that strong, showed by the IRL Russia-Ukraine war, and also by the fact that in this scenario they are losing bad. You know, when you have that many countries allying against somebody, it's just hard to win. As now they fully lose all of Caucasia, and now the Caucasian theater is over, and now the Bulgarian forces and the other Balkan forces will go in and make a landing in Central Asia, and they are now starting to disconnect Russia from the Caspian Sea. Going over to Siberia, we see that the US lands here into the Soviet Union and takes their land in here, in their peninsula here. They also disconnected from the other peninsula, and they quickly move across this part, taking that said peninsula. They take the Kareli Islands, yeah, the Kareli Islands, and they make a landing in Sakhalin Island, and now advance Russia into this part. If it couldn't get any worse, Mongolia is looking for a part 2, and they will immediately move across Tanatova, taking this region, and now they move across the Baikal Lake, taking that entire area. And you know, Russia didn't really enforce Siberia, because why would you enforce territory like Siberia? Because it's cold, no one is invading that, but apparently it is invaded by the Mongols, which now seems super friendly with the Americans, and Mongolia is taking a lot of land. And at the end of the day, we see that Mongolia takes all this land from the Soviets. Back to America, they take all these parts, move across this region, and Russia is about to lose their entire Pacific coast, which they do, and now the Americans are starting to meet with Mongolia, which again they eventually do, and now they start to move across here together and take lands from the Soviets, which are pretty clearly losing this war very bad. Going over to Caspia, we see Russia losing the entire access to the Caspian Sea, and eventually a spearhead is made to the Aral Lake, taking all that, and I'm pretty sure the Aral Lake was drained, but guess what, I don't care. And now the forces of all these countries combined are just too overwhelming, and Russia takes a lot of land. Their main area gets encircled, and eventually they lose Moscow. And now Russia is almost pushed fully out of Europe, which they will eventually be. They start losing some of their islands, and now they are about to be kicked out of Europe, and guess what, they were just kicked out of Europe. Novaya Zemlya will get captured by Finnish forces quickly, also taking this archipelago of islands. And now with almost no major cities in it, the Soviet Union will get basically fully screwed over, as America and Mongolia will move across all of Siberia. They take a lot of land, they take all their islands, and Russia is basically reduced to all their lands in here. They lost all of the valuable resources of Siberia, which they lose even more now with even more landings. And guess what? Russia is now fully landlocked. They start to be squeezed in to Central Asia, which isn't really even core Soviet territory or Russian territory. And after a very short while and a few rebellions, we'll see the Soviet Union get fully clapped. This nation just got reborn only to be clapped once again and to get fully partitioned just a couple years later. So let's see this massive peace treaty. As you can see in this peace treaty, Russia got fully decimated, so let's get straight in what happened. So Kaliningrad got partitioned between Poland and Lithuania, Latvia and Estonia got a lot of land, and Finland is now huge, taking over the entire Kola Peninsula, and it's now super close to St. Petersburg. Speaking of Poland, they took a lot of Belarus and Ukraine. Belarus took a bit of land from Russia, and Ukraine got a pretty good payback by taking all these lands, also fully encircling the Azov Sea, where there are a lot of Ukrainian people in there. Carpathian Ruthenia is split between Hungary and Slovakia, pretty obvious, and Romania got back its pre-World War II borders from Ukraine, so now Romania's happy. In Caucasia, Armenia loses its little panhandle to Azerbaijan, which now connects with its enclave, also with them taking a bit of territory here from Russia. Georgia takes a little bit of land, and the rest of Caucasia it's made independent. Going over to Kazakhstan, they take a bit of land from Russia in there, and the borders of Central Asia were kind of fixed. If we go to Mongolia, we see that they took a lot of land. They took some land from Kazakhstan. That's basically their way of saying you should have resisted better. Also, they take a lot of their Siberian lands, even encircling the Lake Baikal, which is a super vital area for them, which they will for sure use to their advantage. The US will do a reverse Alaska and take this little part of Russia from Siberia. Now we have a couple new countries. The Kareli Islands and the Sakhalin Islands were taken by Japan. Now we have a couple new countries in here. Also we have Siberia being released from Russia, and the Asian claims from Russia will be released, and for Russia it got screwed over and it got reduced to only these lands. And honestly, this is their payback for trying to bring back the Soviet Union, and this is what they remain with. And with this we end today's video, and I hope you liked it, and I hope to see you in the next video. Goodbye.